Hello, America. I am definitely broadcasting from the bunker. You can hear the activity going on outside the bunker. Can you not, Mr. Producer? Sounds like the dropping of bombs, the firing of missiles. But don't worry, America. It's called the weather. And we're in the middle of a hell of a thunderstorm, a lightning storm. Thanks to, of course, climate change. Yeah, it's climate change. There it is. I want to clean up a few things here because the media are lying to you or deceiving you. The headline yesterday from the Associated Press was Trump accused of asking staffer to delete camera footage in Florida classified documents case. I said Trump accused of asking staffer to delete camera footage. So in other words, it wasn't deleted, Mr. Producer. The accusation is that he asked the staffer to delete it. Now, of course, that can be a crime if the material is subpoenaed and you are seeking to do so. But that changes the entire complexion of this charge, does it not? A staffer is making an allegation. So it's a he said, he said. So this is the thinnest of thin reed to bring a new charge against the former president of the United States. So they're throwing the full power of federal prosecutorial resources against a maintenance man to get him to flip to support the state against Trump on this one charge. Now, why are they doing that? Because there are multiple motions that I discussed with you 2 weeks ago, as well as on Fox, that President Trump's lawyers can file, and some need to be filed. I don't know what they're waiting for. They don't need to wait till May. They can perhaps send a torpedo into this pirate ship immediately. So I wanted to point that out as number one. We have a killer show this Sunday on Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have Benjamin Netanyahu, and we have former Governor Bob McDonnell. Now I want to talk about this next issue. Slavery in the curriculum in Florida. I must say I'm disappointed by Tim Scott. I'm disappointed by Wesley Hunt. Disappointed by Byron Donalds. All my friends. And Byron Donalds in particular I've known quite a long time. Well, long enough. Longer than most. And what they are doing is really quite perplexing to me. Unit 2 of the AP's syllabus on slavery, labor, and American law. A chapter on the slave economy suggests this is the college boards that are set throughout the country. That slaves learn to become painters, carpenters, tailors, musicians, and healers, and subsequently use their skills to provide for themselves and others. DeSantis has been widely criticized in recent weeks, including by Vice President Kamala Harris, and I might mention those Republicans that I did, over a singular passage in Florida's 2023 social studies standards, which acknowledges that, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Nobody's praising slavery here. Nobody's saying even that but for slavery they wouldn't have learned these skills. The learning objective from the AP curriculum just shows that this pseudo-controversy was nothing more than a dishonest political hit job by Harris, the White House, and the unions, DeSantis press secretary said. And she's right. And she's right. And you can read what Dr. William Allen, former chairman of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, had to say about this. You can read what Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington had to say about acquired skills under adverse circumstances, I'm quoting, who came with skills that enabled them not only to survive, but also to go on further accomplishments after slavery. So why has this become a hot issue? And why do Republicans bite these hooks? Why do they go for this stuff? I don't get it. Why do they play into this? I don't get it. I mean, if you want to talk about slavery and what took place, then talk about Biden. And his segregationist past. Talk about the Democrat Party. They're responsible for slavery. Why are you trashing DeSantis? And by the way, obviously Scott's running against DeSantis, and the other two gentlemen I mentioned have supported Trump. But still, aren't we in the mode right now to save the country? Isn't that the goal? Whoever the Republican nominee becomes. We're on a very, very slick path to the destruction of this country. So the typical kind of politics that's played is unacceptable to me. By friend and foe alike. By friend and foe alike. And speaking of foe, Christie is not going to come anywhere close to getting enough votes to be president. I don't know if he succeeded in accomplishing the very low standard of being the first debate or not, but he's obviously been backed and supported by people who have as their singular goal to take out Trump and or DeSantis. And there are certain hosts and certain platforms who are promoting him. Like he was promoted today for a very long interview. And in no time during that very long interview, in which he was obviously set up to just trash the hell out of Trump without any significant pushback, making wild accusations, because that's what he does. Was he asked about his own tenure as the governor of New Jersey? So I'm here to remind you, since those who promote Christie, particularly in the media, have memory lapses, intentionally so. This is from Wikipedia. I despise Wikipedia, but when I'm using it in this context, it's as good as any other. The Fort Lee Lane closure scandal, also known as the George Washington Bridge Lane social scandal, or Bridgegate, was a political scandal involving a staff member and political appointees of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, colluding to create traffic jams in Fort Lee, New Jersey, by closing lanes at the main toll plaza for the upper level of the George Washington Bridge. The problems began on September 9, 2013, when two of the three toll lanes for a local street entrance were closed during morning rush hour. Can you imagine? Local officials, emergency services, and the public were not notified of the lane closures, which Fort Lee declared a threat to public safety. The resulting backups and gridlock on the local streets ended when the two lanes were reopened on Friday, September 13, 4 days later, by an order from the Port Authority Executive Director and Democrat from New York, Patrick Foy. He said that the hasty and ill-informed decision could have endangered the lives and violated federal and state laws. It was later suggested that the lanes had been closed intentionally to cause the massive traffic problem for political reasons, and especially theorized that they were a retributive attack against Fort Lee's mayor, Mark Skolich, a Democrat who had supported Christie as a candidate in 2013 for governor, who refused to support Christie. The ensuing investigation centered on several of Christie's appointees and staff, including David Wildstein, who ordered the lanes closed, Bill Baroni, who had told the New Jersey Assembly Transportation Committee that the closures were for a traffic study. The United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Paul Fishman, launched a federal investigation resulting in a 9-count indictment against Bridget Ann Kelly, the Deputy Chief of Staff, Baroni, and Wildstein. Wildstein entered a guilty plea and testified against Baroni and Kelly, or found guilty on all counts in November 2016. David Sampson pleaded guilty to one felony count of conspiracy in July 2016 for acts unrelated to the lane closures but unearthed by the federal Bridgegate investigation. Christie's political standing was badly damaged by the scandal, and his approval ratings from the scandal onward only continued to fall. He basically said he didn't know anything. I don't know anything. He did a Biden. How would I know what my entire senior staff is doing? Once considered a leading contender for the 2016 Republican nomination, Christie dropped out of the presidential race after a poor showing in the New Hampshire primary, The scandal was widely cited as a major factor in the early demise of his potential nomination. In 2016, both the prosecution and the defense in the trial of two of Christie's former aides argued that Christie knew of his close associates' involvement in a plan to shut down lanes leading to the GW Bridge as it was happening, and that the closings were to punish Skolich for declining to support Christie's re-election bid. It was the first time Christie had been officially accused of contemporaneous knowledge of the plot. Now, the defendants in the case appealed their convictions. In June 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court granted cert and heard the case known as Kelly versus U.S. In January 2020, one defendant, Bill Baroni, having already begun serving his prison term federal, asked for immediate release. On May 7, 2020, the Supreme Court unanimously overturned the convictions, judging that the defendants could not have violated the fraud statutes they were charged under since they had not obtained money or property. So they didn't rule that they didn't do it. They ruled that it couldn't be fraud because they didn't get anything in exchange for it. Now, what about Christie? Oh, as I'm pulling down the article, it's quite lengthy, Chris. Let's see here. So there are all kinds of inquiries into all this. And the official misconduct case against Christie, as Wikipedia puts it, Teaneck citizen activist William J. Brennan filed a complaint in September 2016 in the Fort Lee Municipal Court, alleging official misconduct by Christie. The complaint specifically said Christie had failed to stop the closure, then in progress, when, according to Wildstein's sworn testimony, Christie heard about it from Baroni and Wildstein on Wednesday, September 11, 2013, the third day of the closure. The complaint alleged that Fort Lee and its mayor were deprived the benefit of enjoyment of their community as a consequence of this intentional, evil-minded act. In October 2016, Judge Roy McGeady, the presiding judge for the municipal courts in Bergen County, New Jersey, accepted jurisdiction based on the events having occurred in Fort Lee and found that probable cause existed, quote, to believe that an event of official misconduct was caused by Governor Christie, unquote. The judge therefore issued a summons. This put the case into the hands of Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. Prosecutor Guber Griol, who was appointed by Christie, recused himself from the case. State Attorney General Christopher Porrino, who previously served as the governor's office counsel, also recused himself from the case. So subordinates in their offices had to handle the matter. The state Superior Court denied Brennan's request to appoint a special prosecutor. In January 2017, a state Superior Court judge denied Christie's motion to dismiss the citizen's complaint, but also vacated the earlier finding of probable cause on the basis that Christie had been improperly denied his right to counsel at the October 2016 hearing. The court ordered a new hearing regarding the complaint. Later that month, prosecutors decided not to pursue charges against Christie. Now, while prosecutors chose not to pursue the case, the Bergen County municipal judge ruled the case had not been dismissed. And in February 2017, following a new hearing, the Bergen County municipal judge ruled that the case could proceed, saying the court is satisfied that Christie had knowledge of the traffic problems in Fort Lee. And then they issued a new criminal summons. In March 2017, the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office dropped that complaint against Christie, writing to the Superior Court judge, "We do not believe that an official misconduct charge can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt." All pretty sleazy, don't you think, America? Christie has played rope-a-dope from the very beginning. I don't know what my chief of staff was doing, my deputy chief of staff, my campaign. I don't know. All they said is they don't believe they could prove a charge of misconduct beyond a reasonable doubt. And, of course, Christie declared victory. Now he's on the attack. And he's given a platform. The same platform he got today has been given to Chris Sununu to trash Trump. It's been given to Karl Rove to trash Trump. It's been used to promote Mitt Romney. And these are platforms that are used all the time for one reason and one reason only. Not because Chris Christie has ever done anything in his entire life that is profound or important, but because he's a torpedo